Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I am Tamara Johnson Shealey, and I am home for a day or so. Not for long, but I'm home. I'm exhausted. I have been literally traveling around the state of Georgia in a small RV campaigning, y'all. It has been quite an adventure. Let me see where my trusty co host is. There
Hey,
he is. Good morning, David.
good morning, Tamara.
How are you?
Doing okay. Doing okay. Bit um, physically sore. I've been working out hard this week, but that's a good thing, not a bad thing. So, uh,
Yeah.
knock on wood, I can still do it. So,
Yeah. Look, you're still young. You still got a lot of years ahead of you. You're good. I have been traveling, David. I went from Columbus, let me think, Columbus to Waycross to Tifton, Columbus to Tifton to Waycross to Macon to Albany to Fort Valley, Sylvester. I miss. It's like I have to like really think to figure out where I
yeah,
have been
yeah.
all this
And
week, David. I
and
have.
Wake Loss is where this most recent police attack occurred on young kids
Yes.
firing their weapons. This lieutenant who was involved was killed a black man about 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
This white police lieutenant, and this just reminds us of the history of South Georgia and what it has been like historically. To bring it out of the Jim Crow era has been you know the white supremacists have been kicking and screaming to come into the, you know, um, into a period of economic and social justice, and we are far, far away from being there yet. It seems like from all of the things, including Ahmaud Arbery, and just months ago,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
they were just gonna let the let the whole incident go by.
Mm-hmm.
It hadn't been for the release of that video. So
Yep. This is Georgia. Unfortunately, this is how things have worked for years and years here in this state. We're gonna bring Mr. Carlton in. I wanted to. He's an activist over in. He's everything over in
Mm.
Macon.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you, Mr. Carlton?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
Doing good, doing good. So I visited Macon. You and I had a conversation. I was talking about, and I even posted. I went over to Sylvester, and I could just, my heart breaks. Some of the communities that I see around the state. It's heartbreaking to see the level of poverty that exists, and people are. I was speechless at a lot of stuff that I saw, Carlton.
Right, right. Well, I understand what you're saying because I feel the same thing right here in Macon. And I see so much. Of course, I've traveled across the state and I see, we're Macon mirror a lot of your little small southern towns. But I see Macon as being a step ahead, yet backwards. I heard you mention one time, how do you take two step backwards and one step forward and call yourself going forward when you took more steps backward than you did forward? That's kind of how I see Macon. We've had um,
can you
right.
fix your mic, Carlton? You're
Oh, okay.
very faint.
Can you hear me now?
He just wants you to, and maybe you could talk a little louder. David is, his hearing is a little impaired.
All right. Let me see. Can I turn it?
No,
Well,
just talk louder and maybe talk
okay.
into it. Talk
Okay.
into the speaker part of your microphone.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Not much better, but
Just
It's
talk louder, as loud as you can. That would help tremendously.
well. You want me
There
screaming,
you
huh?
Yeah, no, you was talking. There you go. Just take it up a notch.
Okay. Can you? How about that?
Yeah, keep going.
All
David,
right.
I'll translate.
You still can't hear me, David?
We can hear you. Go ahead, Carlton.
Well, maybe I should take the mic out. You think? Well, anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Try that. It's yeah. Take the mic out or whatever it is.
Just
Uh,
talk as loud as you can. We got to keep y'all. We're live, guys. Come on now. Talk
Oh, oh,
louder.
okay. I'm gonna try to talk a little bit louder. Anyway, the thing that you're seeing in most of South Georgia is things that we see in Macon. I saw in
Lean
Macon.
in. When you lean in, we hear you better. Just lean in. There you go.
I see the same thing in Macon. In fact, I just saw a tremendous example of it in our recent election here in Macon. We've been had the white leadership in Macon for 176 years. It reminds me of in 1831 when the Creek Indians were removed from the Ocmulgee River banks into the National Ocmulgee Monument. The Creek chiefs decreed a curse on the city of Macon for that movement. Now, that curse may not mean a whole lot to people who are outside of the city, but when you're in Macon and you look at the condition of Macon, actually Macon looks worse today than it did in the 50s and in the 60s. We're consistently going backwards because people are fearful of a change. You've got people who have sizable wealth in Macon, and they're trying to maintain the status quo. You actually got two Macons, North Macon and the rest of Macon, which is East Macon, West Macon, and South Macon, which is one of the reasons why we have the highest per capita rate of crime in the country, not just in Georgia, but in the country. Because of the way from my perspective, because of the way we see things. For an example, in the 8th district in Macon, Georgia, which is the district of a friend of mine, the poverty rate in that district is at 47%. Now, that's the highest in the state, in the 8th district in Macon, where you have little to no home ownership, where I tell people all the time you could take a block of Macon, which has about 12,000 African Americans located in that 12,000 block with 12,000 people. And in terms of business and ownership, there's only one. With 12,000 people, you got one black person who owned the ground in which that business sit on. It is impossible to build generation wealth without ownership. So there's really little to no hope for those people in that area if we don't understand and work in unity. And I've seen such separate work where I've seen a person who has brought into the city of Macon a black person who was the industrial authority chairman who brought $3 billion into the city. And he was accused of doing something illegal and couldn't even win on an election in a 67% African American city because people believe, in spite of this $3 billion he brought into this city, that a person of another persuasion, Caucasian persuasion, would do better for a city. He promised to hire 150 new police officers to help curtail crime in Macon. He didn't promise to create jobs. He didn't promise to create improvement in the community. He promised to hire 150 new police officers. Now, with the what's going on in the country today, 150 new police officers that may have his ideology, his persuasion, in my estimates, what you have brought into this city is 150 potential Klansmen. I don't understand how it is that we, as a majority, we don't care enough about ourselves. And I say this, and some people may not like it, but I say it because I mean it. I thank God for decent white people because without decent white people, I don't see much hope in us without help. I think that my desire is to create in our community professional sociologists, professional economists, professional psychologists. I think that we need all of those training. Our educational facility is far behind. We're not properly educating, not properly training. All we care about as a superintendent here in Macon, not speaking for other cities, is test scores. And you padding those scores. You're passing people who can't even read. You're putting people to the next level who's on the eighth grade level. You're preparing them to pass a test. That's it. You're not educating them. You're not training to create jobs. You're training and creating hope and getting a job that doesn't even exist. People sit around with nothing to do simply because no one in this city is trying to create opportunity, employment. So I see what you see and saw in the Albany area. And our next transition is those cities that you see where enormous amount of violence, where people gonna stop turning in on themselves. Right now, our murder rate is probably the highest in the state. When you look at the capital in Macon, it's probably the highest. I don't see it subsiding. I see it expanding. I see hate for oneself and hate for people who look like them and people who don't look like them increasing. When you don't have opportunity, when you don't have employment, when you don't have monies, when you don't have any of the basic necessities, in this city we talk about blight. Blight is opportunity to create generational wealth because you can create home ownership. We just, in my estimation, we just don't have it right. And there's so much is needed. So much we need genuine people. Don't need people who are individualists, who think in terms of me, 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 me. But I didn't mean to take this program, so let me bag up a minute and listen a little bit. So
Yeah, and that's one thing I can appreciate about you, Mr. Carlton, your passion and your love for the city of Macon, for people, for Black people. It is genuine and it is sincere. One thing I heard when I was traveling around South Georgia was the word jobs over and over. We don't have jobs. We don't have jobs. And then I look around and I look around and I say, stop using that word jobs, because a lot of these jobs, I actually did a short video. Automation has taken your job, and automation will continue to take your job. But then I say, look over there. Can she bake? There's your bakery right there. Can she cook? There's another restaurant right there. Can she sew? There's your the person that making clothes, and it's like we have to be innovative. We got to create and recreate our communities. And I don't believe that we should just focus on just getting a job. And when you said blight and these communities where, let's tear some of these houses down. Somebody knows how to work on houses. There's a plumber. Somebody knows somebody that can do electrical work. There's all these trades that we could just start coming together and really change the state of our communities. We are our own answers. Our answers are not outside of us. We are our own answers.
that's right. That's right. That's where it starts. And if we can, it's again, I see so many missed opportunities. I see people who seem to like the energy now. I don't know that we miss the application of wisdom. I learned a long time ago that knowledge has three sources. It comes from academic observation and experience. And with that knowledge, you're supposed to utilize it in a way that you get an understanding of your environment, an understanding of people who are near and around you, and people you should care about, and your responsibility as a member of a community. And with that understanding comes wise decision, where we are using the understanding to create opportunities because we know that we have a responsibility to do so, which is pure, simple wisdom. I think that our youth, for most part, they are acquiring certain levels and types of knowledge, but with that knowledge, there's no, to me, it don't seem like there's enough dispensing of understanding the responsibility and obligation collectively. I'm seeing the difference on a national level. I can applaud the movement Black Lives Matter. Um, I think that that is a excellent starting place. It's a place that we can all gravitate towards and work within. But there's so much more that can be done and need to be done with the opportunity that the brand has created. And that's what it's created. It's created an opportunity of understanding. It's created an opportunity of hopefully application to a human race, to a oneness in people who actually care about other people and their community. I, I don't, I don't want to make it a um, religious soapbox about the importance of us doing those things. I think that as a human being, you are instilled it in your spirit, in your soul, to not be an individual. You are part of a collective. Whether you want to make that collectively a racist collective, that's to me, that's wrong. That's not right. But people do that. But you gotta, I think you need to understand it is a collective of human beings first. That 1% or that 2% that creates the division of the other 99 to 98% simply for power and control that we buy off into because of the verbiage. People have gotten so excellent with their articulation and verbiage that you got groups that will buy this and buy that, and none of it is true. Most of it is an illusion comping the truth. And I think that Trump has exposed to us that we have a bitterness at the core of who we are. We have a rejection of our human and humanity at our core that I think we have to somehow harness and get people to understand that, right is right. Unlike the song, I think it went something like, if loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right. That's a song, and it needs to stay a song. It needs to be right, and that's need to be the core of what we do. What's right?
David, David, I'm gonna tell you on the heels of what Carlton's saying. When I was out, I saw a lot of poor people, and David, I saw a lot of poor white people, and it was so disturbing to me. And I'm gonna tell you, I was a little hesitant, David, as I was passing out my flyers to approach them, some of them, because I felt like some of them looked at me like, "Don't come close to me," and I'm like, I wasn't sure if they were like Trump supporters. And I'm like, me being this black candidate, would you really support me? And I felt some of them, I felt a little uncomfortable, but I saw a lot of white poor people. And some of these were, they were food giveaways, and they were in the line because they were just, they needed just like other communities needed. And I know you talk a lot about solidarity, but they can get in line with us and they can get the free food, but it has to go beyond that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you that there's that first of all, the whole Jim Crow system, whether it was the old Jim Crow or the new Jim Crow, that's around now, uh, it's it appears to be targeted at African Americans, but in fact, it drags the whole of the working poor down with it. And it seems to me that the way that it does it is by uh, elevating, poor whites in terms of status without giving them any real wealth. So, um, and they are willing, they have been willing to trade that status as part of the white race for real, economic power and and ability to control their lives, because the chance to do that, or the opportunity to do that, absolutely requires them to treat African Americans. And as long as first of all, as long as they're unwilling to do that, but secondly, as long as there is no one who is really presenting them with that alternative, um, they remain stuck, because
And what would the
nobody.
alternative be, David? This is why they're stuck. Like, what would the alternative be when your white privilege really comes across as a privilege, and it really is a privilege? So, what could be better?
What could be better if you're waiting on a on a free cheese line, because you're free, a food line, because you don't have enough food to feed your kids. uh, I mean, this is exactly what Martin Luther King said about Jim Crow, and we're talking the 1965, Selma and Montgomery, uh, Freedom March. After the Edmund Pettus Bridge. I mean, Martin Luther King spoke in Montgomery, and he said exactly that. He addressed poor whites, saying, that the rich and the rich Southerners took the world and gave you Jim Crow. That was his. He understood it really, really clearly. Um,
But even
and
though they were in that line, David, I honestly felt like I saw them. I say for every 10 families I saw that needed the food, I saw a white family. So they were in that line, but I feel like some of them felt like I'm still better than you.
well, I think that they may have felt more like, this is humiliating, embarrassing. All of these other things that internalize, um, their lack of success, and inability to take care of themselves and their families, um, and being put on the same level as African Americans, needing this food handout. So I think there's a lot of internalized oppression that's going on there. I mean, Carlton is making a point about, black people turning their anger and frustration inward, um, on each other and on themselves. And I think that's also true in a different way for European Americans who think and act and consider themselves white. Um, they can't figure out why they can't make it. I mean, if they're white, they should be able to make it. And the fact of the matter is that there's a lot of hidden poverty and hidden, um, you know, uh, distress that's among these European Americans, and they can't get out of it as long as they're uh, mired in this Jim Crow thinking, this Jim Crow thinking in action. So
So Carlton and I was talking about earlier this morning, we were talking about, I was saying how some of the people that I saw, they have a defeated spirit. They feel like they can't do any better. And I think they anesthetize the pain with food. Like I noticed that I'm like, dang, if COVID, because I'll tell you, half the people that I saw out there around Georgia, half were wearing masks and half weren't. I was wearing mine. I'm saying if COVID
yeah.
don't get you, and the diet and the food that you eating will, there's the people, and so they're finding ways to feel better. So whether it be food, whether it be drugs, whether it be, whatever it is, they're finding other ways, because I think so many people are defeated in their spirit. Carlton, you want to jump in? That was a conversation you and I were having this morning. Uh-oh, we don't hear you. We have no sound. Wait 1 second. Now try it. There you go. We got you.
Okay.
Lean in. No, lean in. And now, uh-oh. Yeah,
Hello?
we can hear you
Hello?
now.
Well, what I noticed in Macon that I paid a lot of attention to, Macon is a city like most of the other parts of the country where if you have a light and people surrounding you are in the darkness, and you say to those people, listen, follow me, and I'm going to lead you out of this darkness into light. What I'm noticing is based upon if that's true, if you really can lead them out of the darkness into light, very few will follow you. But if you are promising them something that you can't deliver, you'll be surprised at how many go round and round in that darkness, hoping that they can get out of that darkness by following you till eventually you all die just going round and round. What we don't seem to understand as poor people, we're in this boiling pot of water. Just because it gets the hottest at the bottom first doesn't mean the entire pot won't get hot. The whole pot is coming to a boiling point at some point. We have to stop thinking that because it started at the bottom and it's hottest there, that I can jump out the pot before it gets to a boiling point. Not going to happen. In most cases, it has never happened. And so we won't witness it happening now. It's going to take real change, real leadership, real passion, real sacrifice, which is what people are not unwilling to do from what I see. I think that they've witnessed the sacrifice of all of the models of past with Dr. King, Malcolm X, Medgar Evans, and the list goes on. And people are determined, I'm gonna take care of me. I'm gonna say what people need to hear to achieve and acquire what I need. And we're becoming a very deceptive society. And it's difficult for people to hear truth and gravitate towards that. We just simply don't believe it. I think the greatest example of that is that people have watched Trump and watched his level of success where everything is okay. As he said himself, he could probably kill somebody in Madison Square Garden and they'll acquit him. They'll let him go. This man has done everything that is inhumane, immoral, and unconstitutional, and he still sits on power. I think our local government, people on local level, is seeing that and copying that and tapping into the worst part of humankind. And so that too has to play its way all the way out. But it's going to be a lot of suffering because we've been in a pandemic before COVID-19. We were in a pandemic. It just wasn't identified as a pandemic. It was identified as something, oh, it'll pass, you'll do better, everything will go away, it'll be all right. Color doesn't matter, race doesn't matter, all this stuff doesn't matter. Doesn't matter to who? To you? Because those people who are in opposition to you, it matters. So because it doesn't matter to you, doesn't mean that it's not creating adverse effect for the masses, for the majority. So yes, it matters, and it's okay that it matters to the extent that you are who you are. You're a black person, you're a black person. You European descent, Caucasian, you're European Caucasian descent. Asian, it doesn't matter. You are who you are. And we were created in that way. And so there's no point in being in opposition to who you are. Be who you are, allow other people to be who they are, and be proud of who you are. And at the same time, it doesn't have to be restricted to, but help the person who needs it the most. Don't help people simply because it may be beneficial to you, but that's a good idea to do things for groups of people where it is beneficial to the collective, to the whole group. I think that if we ever come to the point where we may one day, I don't know if it'll be in my generation, but somehow I just feel that we create the monster and the elephant in the room. It is us who have to remove him from or her from the room. We can't keep accepting things as it is or have this defeated spirit as you described, which is what I see so much of. People simply either don't care or they look for antidote in all the wrong places. They're not properly medicated for the problems that they have. They experience trauma. They see bodies in the streets. They see television with everything goes, ain't nothing ethical or moral, nothing. And so they're not receiving it. We're not receiving it in the homes, in the churches, and certainly not in the schools. So it's creating that divide, that division, which we're beginning to see people recognizing that on a larger scale and throwing that to the side and beginning to try to unite. But in the South, especially in this city, we were stuck in the 50s and we fortunately moved to the 60s. Now, if we ever get to the 70s, we may see great changes. But right now, we're in the 60s in Macon,
Yeah.
and we're
Yeah.
happily in the 60s. And
Yeah.
that's just not going to work. That's not beneficial.
I'm gonna go back to something you said about Trump and how he can do anything and he could get away with it. It just shows you how, and this is what I wrote down, how white, he's showing you how white is right. White can be dead wrong if he goes to kill somebody and he can get away with it, but he's showing you how right white is. And so that's the point I wanted to make when you said that. And then you talked about it came to me equality versus equity. And this generation of us, we're asking for equity. We're not looking for equality. Equality means I give you $1, I give David $1, I give the next person $1. We all get $1. How about I need $2 and you don't need but 30 cents? So we need equity. We're not asking for equality. This generation is demanding equity. And when you talk about how we see bodies as a people, I was over at that Rayshard Brooks site, which was next door to that. I went over to visit the Rayshard Brooks site over at the Wendy's here in Atlanta, but next door to that was a site where I saw a body actually laying in the street, and I had never seen a body lay there in the street like that. And it was traumatic for me. I made a video right after that because it was so traumatizing. And some of these people that were standing around, they were so desensitized. Like seeing that body was like, this is normal. And I'm like freaking out, like this ain't normal. Why are they not covering him up? Like this ain't normal. But it was so normal. So they've been desensitized to so much of what they've been exposed to. So it's a hard place that we're in this country. But it's going to take some radical change. It's going to take some truth telling. And it's going to take people that are running for office, these elected officials. It's going to take them really taking a stand. And a lot of them, like you say, is self-interest. They're in it for themselves, what they can get out of this, and not for the people. David, you want to jump in?
Well, I'm thinking about these areas, that, as Carlton is saying, are stuck in the 60s, maybe in the early 60s, before the or the late 50s, when the civil rights movement is just starting to take off. I mean, the Montgomery bus boycott is 1955. And it took a lot of struggle and a lot of mass movement and a lot of organizing to even get to the point where a Civil Rights Act and a Voting Rights Act were passed in 64, 65. So we're reaching another building point, another crest in the wave, but I don't know how much of it is reaching into those areas, Macon and south and west of Macon. And you're saying, Carlton, that the elected officials of Macon are still all white? Is that what you were saying about it?
Well, what I was saying was that the mayor just recently was elected, and when it came to qualifications, the mayor is white and have been for 176 years, the,
Hmm.
which determines a lot of time where the resources in the city goes to, what community it goes to. That's why you have a prosperous North Macon and a poverty-ridden East, West, and South Macon. And there was a time when they would throw peanuts into these areas to make it appear to be progressing or moving. But nobody's pretending anymore. You've got communities where there is absolutely a decline in home ownership. Businesses are gone. I just described an area of four major street area where you got over 12,000 African American and probably three or 400 poor whites and a couple of hundred people of other descents. Now, in that area, there is absolutely one African American who owns the business and the land in which the business sit on. And when you got one of anything, the longevity of one is short. As soon as they need that property, they're going to create something in code enforcement, taxes. They're going to create something to come get that when the need justifies them come and get it. And you, as an isolated individual, are wonders. What, what, what what the opportunity was, what this man talked about, because he brought $3 billion into the city. He talked about community economic development. He talked about bringing carousels of professional community developers into these isolated communities to create job opportunities, education opportunity, social skills, and trade skills. He's proven the ability to do it. And yet, the people in these communities can either not vote or vote for someone else who haven't promised you anything. This individual didn't even come to the black community to campaign. He kissed no black babies and he promised blacks nothing. But what he did do is sent surrogate blacks into the community to advocate in his behalf. But he promised it nothing. So, in my estimation, he didn't promise nothing, he owes nothing. Static quota is going to continue as it is. He talked about the hiring of new police officers for the city of Macon. Well, you want to increase the prison population, where you're not creating jobs, where you're not creating opportunities for people to develop themselves, to grow, to prosper, to take care of their family, to eat, to create generation wealth. None of that is your subject. Your subject is lock them up. It behooves me that a people who would hear that, even to the point where he says that the black women of Macon, Georgia, are unqualified to train and teach their youth. Where he talked about he's against crime, root out the crime, when the only thing that you've attacked it for the last 6 years was black entrepreneurship, where you got seven white families that completely controls all the wealth in Macon. And you, as the Board of Education chairperson, sees that for the last 12 years, school building contract only goes to white contractors. $147 million in 10 years. No minority participation. You say there are no qualified minority participation. Well, may not be because there ain't no education for them, there's no training. You're creating an atmosphere, you're creating a community, you're creating a plantation that you're not letting out of your grips. Scarlett O'Hara and Gone with the Wind is the most popular. Um, I mean, it has its popularity here in the community in North Macon. I promise you, you can go into North Macon where 70% of the Europeans who live in Macon live at, with the other 30% spread it out around in poverty ever. You can go there and you'll think you're in a different city. Shopping is different. Crime is viewed different. Art museums are located there. Theaters are located there. Fine dineries are located there. When you can come to East Macon, and if you don't eat fast food, you won't eat. There is no sit-down restaurant. There is no movie theater. There's no recreational theme parks, and you're satisfied as a people. You elect a person who's advocated to continue this, and you're happy. You're broke and happy.
That's why I say it's a defeated spirit. It is defeated. I went in some parts of South Georgia, Carlton and David, and there was no grocery stores. And like Carlton said, it wasn't even fast food. I'm like, y'all have to travel outside of where you live just to get food to come back and live where you live.
Yeah.
Dollar stores were everywhere. I promise you, around South Georgia, they must have found out where the black people or where the poor people are, and their dollar stores were everywhere. I saw in one area, the dollar store had a grocery store. I'm like, nah, I don't even know what that is. The dollar grocery store? I don't know what that is. It's just it's so sad, David.
You know, it's funny because the resources that are in the area are very rich, particularly
Yes,
agricultural
absolutely.
resources, you know, and the skill levels of people, you know, who are poor. Poor people have a heck of a lot of skills that, you know, that middle class people don't have. I sort of am in the middle because my dad was an electrician. So I know a little about, you know, about doing that kind of work. Um, but you know, if I really need something done on my house, I can't do it myself. You know, I don't trust myself to do it because I've never, you know, I haven't done it all my life. Um, but there are people who have been forced by necessity to take care of their own, you know, take care of you know of their own house repair needs and their car repair needs, you know,
Mhm.
um, and
They've had to survive, David. Like these are survival skills. Like, because you
yeah,
don't have the money to pay for somebody to fix your car. You don't have the money to pay for somebody to fix your house. And you got to figure out how to get this house
yeah,
fixed. You got a leak.
Mhm.
Your car
yeah,
broke. You got to figure out how to get. I got to go out here and try to fix this thing myself. So these are survival skills that we have. And when you talk about, agriculture, David and Carlton, Georgia is plush and beautiful. Just land. All I saw was opportunity. Every place I drove, it was just acres and acres of just land that we could do so much with.
yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Right. Mhm.
you know, the thing that's curious about all of this, and that I I I raise with you guys because I don't want to make um, any assessment and judgment from outside of the Black community. You know, is that there really seems to be a divide, that you know, there's a slice of the African American community that seems to have um, gotten out of the, you know, the
Absolutely.
poverty cycle, but you know, without really taking everybody else with them. And
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right.
you know, I wonder about what's happening now, because Tamara and I were talking about what's going on with Black Lives Matter and this huge movement that's developed. You know, the public opinion polls say 20 million people have participated in the movement. You know, in these actions and activities. Um, and a lot of the activity has been in places that are in counties across the country. Half the counties that have had the Black Lives Matter movement are counties in which the population is 75% white, where what is going on there, I really wonder. The economic level of the people who've participated in the Black Lives Matter movement is higher than the median income in this country. Um, you know, only 41% of the people in the movement are earning less than $70,000 a year. Now that means that 60% of the people are making more than that, which is extraordinary for an African American civil rights movement, right? There, one statistic that I saw is that the number of people who participated in Black Lives Matter who make over $150,000 a year is higher than the proportion in the population as a whole. It's something like 13% in the population as a whole, 19 to 20% in the Black Lives Matter movement. The proportion. So a fifth of the people are making 150,000. Where are these people coming from? And are they African American? Are they European American? We don't know. We also know that there's tens of millions of dollars are pouring into both the traditional civil rights organizations like the NAACP and the Urban League, and the Urban League still is around. And more tens of millions are going into Black Lives Matter.
Let's let Egberto jump in. Hold that thought. Good morning, Egberto.
Good morning and welcome. I mean, not welcome, but great to see all you guys, David, Tamara. And I forgot your name, but I was listening to you and I enjoyed everything
Carlton.
that you were saying.
That's Carlton.
Carlton, that was great. That was great. Learned a lot. Hey, I just want to kind of touch on what David was talking about. I don't think it should be surprising that the income level of those that are protesting are higher in general, because the truth of the matter is they have the resources that allows them to protest. The thing about when you have a systemic poverty is it's self-sustaining. What that means is that you are so poor when you get up in the mornings, you have to think about how do you make some money for your kids? How do you feed your kids? How do you get to figure out how you're going to get to work tomorrow? There's so much that's happening on the person who doesn't have its minds. So those who are afforded the opportunity to go out there and protest generally have what? Spare time and spare income. So, I mean, we have to really understand that. And that is why it's so important. Now, there's another thing that you mentioned. Where is the money coming from? That is an interesting thing too, right? I've complained many times about all the wealthy folk that have ignored the movement for a long time. I think a lot of this money comes sort of in a clandestine manner, not clandestine, but in a covered manner. Because let's give an example. Let's say Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey is a brand that isn't a color-based brand, but if she wants to help, more than likely she's going to help on the cover. I think it defeats the purpose, but more than likely that is sort of what I think. I don't know that for a fact she would do. But my statement of my national statement is post office. Post office. Post office. It's amazing that it's a little town in Montana that's the one that turned that scared the whole bejesus out of Trump and his minions to actually start changing, to leave things alone. If it wasn't for Montana, he would have ignored every one of these other calls. But Montana is his base, and everybody loved the post office, whether you're right, left, they love to complain about the post office. but they know they couldn't live without the post office. They know a lot of veterans are earning their livelihoods from post office. They know a lot of that over time is coming from that post office. So, I mean, the interesting thing that we should learn from the post office debate or the post office issue is find a way, since we have a right-wing president, find a way to connect to those people and let them realize your man is hurting you. And once they start to realize that, you see how fast the man changes. And that's my statement for the day.
So tell us what happened in Montana for those of us that don't know.
Well, what happened is
I've been around the state. I don't really know.
I am sorry. I should have said it started with Iowa and then Montana when they started to see their boxes being removed in Montana and raise hell, and it got to Trump and his minions. That's when they stopped. But what happened over the last few days, people have been doing videos of the post office removing boxes. You know, those standalone boxes that you have in different neighborhoods? They've started taking them out. The idea behind that is if we take those boxes out where people normally would have easy access to drop their ballots in, it's no longer there. They have to go to the post office. Remember what we're talking about? Poor people, they may not have cars, etc., etc., etc. So they wouldn't go and they'll just, to hell with it, I won't throw my ballot in. Advantage Trump. But when this woman in Iowa made it known, she works for the union in Iowa, made it known, it started to explode. And for all practical purposes, Trump simply ignored it. And then in Montana, what happened is they started complaining to the congressman in Montana that, hey, we're seeing these boxes removed and our mail's slow. Just it being the state of Montana told Trump something, because that is a state that is starting to complain about something they are doing. And that is what brought it into the fold.
Yeah,
So
the other.
Did they put the boxes back real quick? Did they put the boxes back?
I think that is the number one question we have to ask. The truth of the matter is they never said they were putting the boxes back, but I think that is the next, in fact, what you just said, Tamara, is what we have to work on. They need to put it back.
Yeah, you know, I have a few things to say about it. First of all, the postal unions, that's who you're talking about. The clerks union, the woman in Iowa, is the president of the union, the postal workers union local, and she's the one who sounded the alarm about 2 weeks ago. And one of the big things that she noticed is that they were dismantling the sorting machines, not just putting them on under wraps, but actually taking them apart. These machines cost $1 million a piece.
Dismantling the machines?
Yeah, they're actually tearing down machines that enable them to do barcode sorting of mass mailings. Barcode sorting is exactly what the voting is mail-in ballots have barcodes on them so that they can be sorted very, very quickly. So there's that. But Egberto, I'm wondering about all of these things that are going on with the post office, with the other things that Trump is doing, and I tend to shy away from conspiracy theories, but I sure feel like every outrage that he does and the focus that MSNBC puts on these outrages, and the way the liberal and moderate and centrist Democratic left touts, builds them up and gets everybody whipped up into a frenzy. I wonder if that isn't perhaps something to gin up the vote and to protect the centrist Democratic establishment, the corporate Democrats whose grip on the party is becoming increasingly tenuous. They're holding the party, and to kind of stampede and herd us, all into we got to vote for Biden Harris, because otherwise there's going to be fascism, right? fascism, fascism, fascism. And you hear this all over the place. And, at the same time, there are these folks that are, defeating centrist Democrats who've been in power for decades. The woman in St. Louis, the
Cory
several
Bush.
other.
Yeah. Let Egberto answer, because we only have about 5 minutes left in the broadcast. Go ahead, Egberto.
Let me answer real quick. The answer to that, I think, David, in my humble opinion, is yes. Okay. The centrist Democrats they're doing two things, I think. Yeah, they want to gin up the support for Biden Harris, but I think what they also want to do is not have too big of a win. We talk about winning big, right? They don't want too much of a big win, because a real big win dilutes the power of the progressives of the centrists in Congress. Think about the senator out of Tennessee, the young black woman that won the primary for Senate in Tennessee. Okay, a wave brings her in, right? And we're talking about a lot of these little patches that the progressives get. But here's my thought. I like to play the game with them, right? I am one who says, yes, I am voting for the Biden-Harris ticket. Yes, I am. And the reason why is I see that I honestly believe we can roll them. We can't roll Trump, but we can roll them. And I intend right now I will appear as a Biden-Harris supporter. But as soon as that thing is done, I intend to roll them both. It's that simple.
And you can find Egberto Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. This man is everywhere. Politics done right. Egberto Willies. Thank you, sir, for joining us on this broadcast.
Thank you very much for having me. And let me just tell you, please keep up doing what you're doing, because like I tell you, every time I come to your show, from both you, David, and now Mr. Oh God, I'm getting Carlton. You learn so much. I know it's past my time, but I just got to say this, Tamara. What you saw riding around Georgia with all the space or whatever, please tell the story. Because that is what Americans need to, you're Georgians, but Americans in general need to know how wealthy this country really is and how little we have. And when I say we, yeah, black people are at the bottom of the scale as far as what we have. But white people need to understand that they are being screwed too. They are being screwed too. And when they realize that, the real alliance can occur. Thank you guys so kindly.
Thank you, Egberto. Have a great week.
You too.
That might be the name of a new organization. Screwed too.
Egberto, you better coin that. David's about to take it. I said it. I'm telling Egberto to coin that, because David is going to take it. Not that David does anything on social media, but Egberto, make sure you coin that. It's yours. Yeah. Carlton, thank you for joining us. We're almost at the top of the hour. Macon, Georgia is in our hearts. South Georgia is so neglected in so many ways. And it's amazing to me that in the metro areas, we live on top of each other, cluttered together in these tight spaces. And we're trying to everybody's trying to be so territorial, and we, in these little tight spaces, when all the opportunity is outside of the metro areas. It is amazing how beautiful Georgia is. It is some of those 2-lane highways, and you just ride for miles and miles, and it's just acres and acres of beautiful land that is just waiting for us to do more with.
True.
Yeah, we're going to need a lot of reformation of the control, or of all of this area, and the return of small farmers. All of those things that would really make this, the state wealthy for the people rather than for the elites. I think that's really what the struggle is all about now. Because
go ahead, David.
Because the farms and the land have been expropriated. They're, it's all in the hands of the rich. It's concentrated in the hands of the rich, and it needs to be redistributed. The wealth needs to be redistributed.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Carlton, for joining us. You know you are a friend to this broadcast. You can come back absolutely anytime you like. Thank you for keeping us abreast of what's going on in Macon and giving us your 2 cents. It means a lot. It means a lot. We hear you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Carlton.
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you, Carlton.
David, what a great broadcast. What a great broadcast I have. I'm gonna heal my foot. For those of you that don't know, I fell in a hole. I've been campaigning hard, y'all, and I was walking and talking, and here I go. I fall in a hole, like a sinkhole was in the ground. I fall straight in the thing. Hurt my foot, so I'm hopping, y'all. I'm hopping, so I'm gonna put my foot up. I'm gonna take a day to really kind of get my head right. But I'm back out there next week. So I am going around the state. I'm committed to this run. No matter what, I'm staying as safe as I can. I can't resist the hug. I can tell you. Some people have reached out to hug me, David, and I hold my breath, but I get that hug. I do. I hold my breath before I go in. I get that hug, and then I'll back out and breathe. I'm trying, y'all. I'm trying to be as safe as I can.
All right. Well, you be safe. Take care of yourself. Raise awareness about, healthy practices around you. Maybe, if people are coming up to you that don't have masks on, you got to tell them, maybe
I do this. Look, I give them the elbow, like, we're supposed to do this. Like, I don't play with those that don't have on masks.
Right.
I don't get that close.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely doing all I can. He's asked, how's my fundraising going? Thank you for asking. I need support, guys. That's why I kept the website up on the screen. We're just a couple months away. November 3rd is right around the corner. I need all the support I can get. Go to my website. It is tamaraforgeorgia.com. Go to the website. Please, please, please donate. Give as much as you can, and consistently, if you can give me whatever, every week or every 2 weeks or once a month, just please donate. I need it takes gas to run this little thing, and I'm committed to staying out here. Yard signs are not cheap. Passing out fires, and I definitely need all the support I can get. So please, guys, give to my campaign, Tamara for Georgia. David?
Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing, Tamara. This is really important stuff, and you're on the ground when other people are campaigning from 30,000 feet, and that's what we need. We need people to be on the ground, to listen and to see what's actually going on, rather than the way that just going on the airwaves and talking at people, rather than really talking with them and listening to what's really happening out there.
Yeah. So same time next week, David, 11 a.m. next Saturday, we'll be back.
Yeah, great.
Power to the people.
Power to the people.
Power to the people, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Tamara.